Hello there. Welcome to episode 58 of Bow and Blade, a podcast brought to you by medievalist.net, your home for all things medieval on the internet. Bow and Blade gives you a seat at the bar as scholars of medieval warfare go beyond the Wikipedia articles to talk about the debates and the questions that we're working on today. I'm Michael Livingston, Distinguished Professor at the Citadel, the Military College of South Carolina.
I'm Kelly DeVries, last term professor of history at Loyola University of Maryland. Yeah, Mike, I've taken the big dive and going to retire at the end of this term. So
Awesome. Good on you, son. And
yeah. Do I call that pre-emeritus?
Pre-emeritus, emeritus to be. So what are you drinking tonight at the bar, Kelly?
Well, we're doing Hungary 1456. And there's some pretty good Balkan wines being produced right now. I think we're gonna go with a Hungarian or a Slovenian Balkan wine.
Balkan wine. I do not think I've had. Well, I mean, I've had Greek wine, I guess technically, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know that I've had a wine that was Slovenian or Bulgarian or Hungarian. Huh. I've not had such a thing. They're good though, huh?
Well, the Hungarian ones are pretty good. Yeah. I think I've only had one bottle of the Slovenian, and it was pretty good too. I mean, they're right in the area. They should produce good grapes, I guess. So I took a chance, and yeah, it turned out okay.
All right. Well, I'm having myself a beer. I thought about having blood on account of this being tangentially like cousin-ish or whatever to Vlad Tepes stuff, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't want people getting the wrong idea. You know how it goes. Um,
He definitely wasn't here. I don't think he was at this
no,
conflict.
yeah, he
So
wasn't
yeah,
here. He
but
was
it is
around.
in the area. He is in the area.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
about this time. Mhm.
Interesting guy. Um,
I like your definition of interesting there.
Interesting.
Let's stretch that out. Huh?
Well, it is interesting. It is
He is an
interesting.
interesting guy. Yeah.
Be a
Love
very
the
interesting
Russian
guy to be as far away from as possible.
as possible. Yeah. I like the Russians. Um, Russian chronicles writing them up, and they'll say, yeah, who doesn't impale a few people?
Tuesdays, am I right?
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, you got the stakes, but you might as well do
in Russia, steak it gets you. So yeah, we're not doing Vlad Tepes. We're not doing that. We're doing the Siege of Belgrade, 1456, specifically July 1456. But we'll get there. And this is actually kind of like a sort of like a part one of two.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
we're going to do the next episode. It's also going to be Siege of Belgrade, but that's a different Siege of Belgrade, later one,
1521.
1521. And yeah, we thought this would be kind of fun to do these two, back to back because they're obviously at the same place, right? And the one is kind of taking into account what happened to the previous one. Lot of connective tissue, even though there's almost 70 years between them. So stay tuned and you'll get that one as well. Yeah, where to start in history is always like a bit of a question mark. We thought for this we would start with the siege of Constantinople in 1453, which we covered in episode 49. So you can go back and listen to episode 49. We talked about the siege of Constantinople, the fall. Spoiler alert, what happens there? And that would be a pretty sensible place to start. Why do the Ottomans want Constantinople?
Yeah, no, that's I mean, a hard question because they seem to have been avoiding it for so long. So they had completely surrounded it, had just avoided it. They'd taken all the European side of Turkey. They'd taken all the Asian side of Turkey. They moved into the Balkans in great numbers. They've moved not as much into the Middle East at that point, but they've got the Black Sea, and they've just not gone up against Constantinople. Now, having said not gone up, not defeated them. They have gone
Yeah,
up
they've
several
gone up
times.
several
Yeah,
times, but yeah,
several
never
times.
broken it down.
No, the walls have always defeated them, and then Mehmed the Conqueror comes along and brings the walls down and takes the city. He's Mehmed the Nothing before.
I was going to say,
Then he's
he's not
Mehmed the
Mehmed the
Conqueror.
Conqueror, and
Mehmed,
then he is.
yeah, that he is. He is. It's one of those events. Used to say it's a decisive victory in medieval history, decisive military victory, and I'd always have to point out it was probably then. You could almost count 1066 and for the same reason, but it's faster here. Once Constantinople falls, the Byzantine Empire is done. There's a little bit here over Trebizond, and there's a little bit of Mistra down in southern Greece, but there isn't much of the empire left, and that's
Yeah.
the defining time.
Yeah.
But what strikes me more, and this has happened over my entire career, because we all knew 1453 was important back in grad school. What has surprised me is how broadly it was known across
Mm,
Europe. I mean,
yeah.
every single chronicle that is being written across Europe pauses in 1453 and says, yeah, this is the year that the Ottomans took Constantinople. And there were a lot of other things happening in 1453, end of the Hundred Years' War, Ghent Burgundian War. I mean, but they all say, oh, this is the year that the Ottomans took Constantinople.
Well, I mean, for many people in Western Europe, of course, this is almost like apocalyptic kind of thing. I mean, the way it sort of
Mm-hmm.
shakes the foundations of stability, which again, kind of, as you say, sort of in retrospect, um, I mean, the Byzantine Empire was all but, I mean, it was really dead already. Like, it's down to this, but it still is the heart of it, right? And
Yeah,
Constantinople falling is just
yeah.
ripping the heart out, and it's so final. There's no coming back. It's not like, oh, the Byzantines are going to get them in the fourth quarter. Like, no, this is done.
No, no.
Um,
As bad as the Super Bowl was this year.
it is done.
It is done.
It is done. And yeah, that is really shakes the foundations. And you're absolutely right. It's one of the few events that you just see across the board. It's easy
Yeah,
for us to think about the centrality of something like Agincourt, for instance,
yeah,
but it isn't, right? In this kind of, man, everybody is mentioning it, right? It is
right.
everywhere.
Everybody's
Um,
mentioning it, and those who can, like, well, at the time, Cardinal Aeneas Piccolomini is one of the diplomats of the Vatican. He's coming out and saying, "Get the armies together. We got to go restore this. We've got to take it." And in some ways, I mean, it vaults him into the papacy because he's so vehemently against the Ottomans going much further. And so, this is a period when popes come and go very quickly. And in less than a year, he's now pope. And he doesn't change his tune. He doesn't
yeah.
say, okay, now I'm pope. Let's worry about closer things. He actually says, no, this is our threat. We got to go after it.
Well, it is such a threat, right? Because even though, as you said, the Ottomans kind of worked around Constantinople in many respects, it still was this bastion, right? This fortress, this fortification that is, and really that's what it was at that point. I mean, it's a fortified city, and that's the reason they couldn't get it. And it's holding the line. I mean, you could put scare quotes around that, like psychologically, if nothing else, Constantinople is holding. And as soon as it doesn't, as Kelly's saying, like the terror of this is nothing. Is there nothing that can hold back now the steamroller that's coming our way, right? Mehmed just wrecked his way into Constantinople. What is next? Is this just the first domino of all the dominoes to fall? And so there's terror. Where are we going to stop them? How can we stop?
Yes, and because the way he does bring down Constantinople, I think with the using these big heavy guns and using the fact that overwhelming numbers that eventually, as soon as and it was not an easy siege. We know that
Yeah.
as we covered it. But it's the use of these new guns, the powerful siege guns. It's doing whatever he can to breach the wall, and then when he breaches it, he just fills it with men, and they go through. At that point, it's over.
Yeah.
Um, then there's nowhere for him to retreat. I mean, Mehmed XI just is dead somewhere, and the last Byzantine Empire is the last Byzantine emperor is gone. So a lot of it comes up back and comes back onto the West. And they, well, could we have? I think there's both the guilt that they hadn't done anything for so long,
Hmm.
and then also this, could we have done anything so long? And then maybe the next step, which is, oh, if we'd only been there.
Yeah. And then yeah, what do we do now? Right? Like it's done. Where could we possibly
Yeah,
you know, shore up the defenses, as it were, before everything is overrun? And if you are imagining this in a kind of religious context as like a crash of civilizations, and that gets to some degree kind of overplayed by a lot of people, but it does sort of fit the
yeah.
mentality of what a lot of people are thinking at the time. That this is a pot. This could be the end if we can't do something. And well, I mean, we're going to be talking about the Siege of Belgrade in 1456, which is just a few years later,
Yes, it
because that
is.
that gets to be one of these places.
Right.
So Constantinople falls. Um, what is in it for the Ottomans to keep pushing? Do you think? Why are they going to keep kind of pushing towards Europe?
Well, they've got a couple of places. So their goal is Hungary. I think at this point, I think there's some parts of Mehmed's plan
Mhm.
is to go further into Hungary. I mean, he's got the rest of the area, and there's either one or two places to go. You go further into Europe, which he does, or do you go further into the Eastern Mediterranean, which you need a fleet for, and that's the one area that the Ottomans don't have yet is a good fleet. Or do you go into Persia? So with his land army, he can go Persia or he can go to Hungary. He needs a riverine fleet at least for the one, doesn't need any for the other. But if he's going to advance into the Eastern Mediterranean, he also has to be building a fleet, which he does. Once he takes Constantinople, he uses their um, their shipbuilding apparatus and he starts building, but it's still many, many years off. I don't know what exactly is his why it takes 3 years to start going after Belgrade and why it's the target rather than Persia at this point.
Yeah, to some degree, we can't know all of this, but certainly part of the reason Belgrade becomes important is what its location, right? As soon as you start
Yes.
deciding, I'm going to move in that direction. I mean, this is not totally unlike when we did that episode on Thermopylae, episode
Yes.
47 with Mike Cole, and we talked about why is Thermopylae been such like an important location? Well, because it's this. If you want to get from point A to point B, you got to kind of go through there. If you're wanting to get from Constantinople from that end of the Balkan Peninsula, you want to get inward.
Yes.
There's not a whole lot of really convenient ways to go. The most convenient way to head up is to go up the Danube,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the Danube Valley. Great water course, good roads, um, fertile landscape. It's great. It's great. And Belgrade sits right on that, and it
Yeah.
is a good location.
I mean, Belgrade, the Ottomans have been trying to get Belgrade since Nicopolis. So Nicopolis 1396, and that whole area seems now to be open. And they advance on 1396. One of the things that was forgotten when we were doing the Battle of Nicopolis to a
Episode
certain
8.
extent, too. Yeah, is that it doesn't it opens up doors, but it doesn't finalize anything. Belgrade
Yeah.
still sits there because it's so powerful. And not just because of the fortifications around it, which are very powerful, but because it sits in two tiers. It's like a
Yeah.
wedding cake. It has the citadel on top, and it's strong, and it cannot be reached. You can't just stick your cannons in the air underneath it and hope it'll hit into the walls up there. It doesn't work. It is really a tall citadel and then a bigger town underneath,
Which is also fortified.
which is also fortified. Yeah, there's separate fortifications around both, but the bottom has got the bigger fortifications, obviously, because it's still it is where the people live. The nobles and others live up on top.
Yeah, and I love that description as a wedding cake because yeah, that's terrific, dude. Because that is kind of what I mean, visually it looks like that.
Yeah, it
Um,
does.
even today. And that's exactly it. I think it's this tiered kind of thing. That you got to kind of go through by stages, and you can't attack the one without getting the other. I mean, it's like Minas Tirith in Lord of the Rings, right? It's that,
It really is.
there's this ring and then this ring. Um, and it's also sitting on this wedding cake, if you will, is sitting at the point of confluence of two rivers, one being the
Yeah,
Danube, the other the Sava, and that location also is protecting it because it means that cake is only really approachable by land on one side.
yeah, yeah.
The other three sides are water. So like you'd be doing an amphibious attack against walls, which would be kind of nuts. So yeah, it has a really nice defensible position, good ability to get reinforcements via two waterways, and obviously all the fortifications on top of that. So yeah, this is it's a tough thing to take.
Yeah,
And the Ottomans have won it, as Kelly said, they've wanted to take it for a while.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, in 1396, they do try to take it after Nicopolis and can't get it. 1440 again, they try it. And so it's not something that, suddenly Mehmed wakes up one morning and says, "Well, we've taken Constantinople," and then pull out a world map and throw a dart at it and said, "Okay,
oh, there
it's
it is.
Belgrade next."
Yeah,
This is a plan. If he holds Belgrade, he can advance into Hungary, and I think that's his main grand strategy on the eastern side or on the western side.
yeah, yeah, and uh, and yeah, as you say, they've tried and failed to get it before. And all right, so he's gonna do this. Our boy is gonna come rolling in. Now the conqueror, Mehmed II, he brings a lot of dudes.
He, as far as I could tell, in looking at it, and I haven't seen not a lot of studies have been done just of Belgrade. So when I've done my work on Belgrade, it hangs on to something else more important. Uh, Obviously, Constantinople. It seems to me that there's very little difference in the armies that are at Constantinople in 1453 and the army takes to Belgrade in 1456. But the only thing that's different is he does have quite a number of riverine craft that are bringing supplies. So it's actually a better supply line than he had with Constantinople.
Certainly easier, right? At Constantinople, he's having to really kind of grapple with a bigger waterway to get across. And yeah, here he doesn't have that. Um, yeah, I mean, it is a lot. I mean, our chronicles, of course, some of them have
Yeah,
huge numbers.
yeah.
Um, Even though like the lowest estimates we've got are a few tens of thousands, which is like that's a lot. But it was probably quite a bit more than a few tens of thousands. It's a massive, massive force he's bringing in.
And I think in fact, I think that the reliable here is the numbers lost. The Mehmed will lose around 30,000 troops there. And if he's losing 30,000, he's got to have brought at least 50,000 with him. And I'd say probably around 60 or 70,000.
That'd be my bet too. Even though I'm one to usually kind of like put the numbers down, I'm not sure with this one, man. I think that 30,000 loss is probably about right. It's enormous. you cannot keep a force of this size secret, that the
Yeah,
preparations are being made and that it's coming. So,
yeah,
that those 3 years of after Constantinople, obviously there's, the terror of what has happened, the fear of what's coming next.
yeah.
And then pretty quickly, word of he's preparing to move again. We think he's coming up and he's going to try and get into Hungary.
And I think that the word is, I mean, I think the warning has been there. With the Hospitallers who will be taking in Rhodes in 1480, so they're the only other big contest that Mehmed's going to have before he died. The Hospitallers every year at the end of of their documents that they're sending back to France, get more men, get more gunpowder, get more of this sort of stuff. It always ends with because the Ottomans are going to come.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the same thing that was held in Hungary. I don't know if we have the same documents, but in Belgrade, they're sending to Hungary, they're sending to Germany, any place, because he's going to come. And there's not a great affinity between the papacy and Belgrade, but they do know it's Catholic, and they send back and the Pope is making still now Pius II making still lots and lots of calls for. All right, yeah, they're coming. We've got to be prepared for this.
Yeah. And they know, look, Belgrade is this is the gateway. On this kind of, if he's going to go in this direction, he's got to go through Belgrade, and it is a place that we could potentially hold out. So it becomes very much a focus of attention as soon as you know this is happening. And as Kelly said, look, they know it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah,
And 1455, okay, it's happening. Like they're going to come,
yeah,
and the kind of mobilization effort then begins, for who is going to defend. How are we going to get supplies there? How are we going to ready for this? All that good business, uh, which is, I think a pretty decent place, to at least begin introducing a certain someone, who is, I mean, I don't know about you, Kelly, but he's my favorite dude at this
yeah.
entire.
And this conflict certainly, He's one of the great unknowns. He's not because of gender issues. He's not like Joan of Arc, but he's an old man.
I love this guy,
Giovanni di Capistrano.
Capistrano. Yeah, John of Capistrano,
Yeah,
um, Giovanni. So yeah, born in 1386. So, he's 70, which isn't like that. He's not like dude's ancient, but like, it's not like war fighting age. Um,
Miami Stretch. No.
and and yeah, I mean, I'm like, I can't touch my toes anymore. I'm not even
No,
50.
yes,
Um,
exactly.
and this guy is, he's a churchman.
He's
What
a
do we what do we
churchman.
what do we know about his background that's kind of important here?
Well, he's a Franciscan friar, so they're supposed to be the most peaceful of all the orders.
So great.
And he kind of breaks out. He, but I think most importantly, um, he's been regarded as a living saint in 1456 in many ways because he's always just taken his message, the message of anything, the gospel, Christ, whatever he's preaching, and he takes it to the poor people. He doesn't go to the nobles. The nobles don't even know him. And I'm sitting here with just looking right now at a book on the miracles of Saint John Capistrano, and it's like 700, 800 pages long. This is not a saint's life that develops in a few pages and oh yeah, disappears, goes his way, is nice, that sort of thing. He actually really believed in a way that very few people did at this time, believed in what he was preaching, and he believed it needed to go to the poor. And he's one, as far as I can tell, he's the single person who responds to Pius II's call for crusade this in 1456. So the single person who goes with the Pope.
Uh, yeah. And the thing with him is, look, he was probably not a lot of fun to be around.
No,
Um,
no,
bec
I'm not sure
because
Joan of Arc was a lot of fun being around either.
maybe not. Well, but yeah, he is so firm in his faith. And even though his orders for his minor, like he's pretty kind of like militant in his thinking.
Oh yes, yes,
Yeah, this is a guy who's like, you know what? I think we should be doing it this way. And by God, we're gonna do it that way. Like it is just really religious fervor, um, which is powerful, and amazing as a kind of reformer, as a preacher, as an inquisitor. Um, so he has this kind of background, and that gets him a lot of respect in certain quarters, right?
yeah.
A lot of followers.
I've
Um,
always wondered about the people like this, and then there was quite a few in the First Crusade, for example, who were preachers for the people, and they would take the message out, maybe not even a message that should have been taken out to him. But he incorporates but around 1453. I mean, he's very much aware of what's happening in Constantinople, so he starts moving out of Italy and into the Balkan regions, and he takes the call to crusade earnestly and takes it earnestly to the peasants of the countryside. He has no faith that the armies are going to be able to hold out, although the Belgradian force will be their leader will be John Hunyadi, who is a tremendous general.
mhm.
But he, I think that John of Capistrano is just he's special because at that point he's just going to go out and get people to help fight.
Yeah, and as he's trying to even kind of before they know, Hungary is really kind of next on the list. They kind of assume it is anyway. But as he's trying to get people to kind of let's kind of bear arms, let's get ready for this. He really is making a lot of headway, in Hungary, and they are sort of aware of him, connected to him. Um, Now, as he's raising these forces, though, they are mostly of the lower class.
Or
Um,
old people. He seems
yeah,
to have several old people, the lower classes. He's got some young that have never been in war. In
yeah.
fact, I would dare say that despite the fact that that region was covered with war for his entire life, Capistrano's entire life, that the people he recruit from are still not completely aware of exactly who they're going against. They may not have been as enthusiastic had they been a little bit more aware that they're going up against the great Ottoman machine that just brought the Byzantine Empire to heel.
Well, to be fair, if you think God is with you, I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
like brought down the walls of Jericho, like, oh, we're fine.
yeah, yeah.
And faithful make up for a lot here. But yeah, his force is when we kind of ultimately getting closer to the siege, the kind of uh, army that he's putting together essentially um, is a lot of peasantry, a lot of untrained individuals. They are like not super well armed, super well armored. It really it looks a lot like the Peasants Crusade or something like it has that kind
Yes, it
of
does very much
motley
so.
sort of assemblage. But man, are they full of enthusiasm,
They really are.
and this guy at their head, I kind of don't want to call him old. He's only 70, but for what he's doing, it's like, look at that guy, and he's
Yeah.
going for it. Let's all go for it. So yeah,
And his is not the only crusade. Yeah, I was thinking just there that Terry Jones once called the peasant crusaders, armed with little more than bad breath. And so anytime I think of John Capistrano, I think armed with little more than than bad breath and a big stick. But there had been crusades called. There was a whole thing going on in Burgundy where they Philip the Good it was planning this thing and started with the Feast of the Pheasant 1454, and so he was the hopes I think of the Belgradians at least was that they would get some help, not the help that they actually got. I think they were hoping to get like the Burgundian army to
Right.
come because Phil the Good said he was going to come. And then I've always thought it must have been really astonishing when the Byzantines look out over in 1099 or 1096, and the first group they see are these peasants coming through and say, "Hi,
Yeah.
hi,
We're ready to
hope to
help.
hope to
What?
come on that. We're gonna fight those bad old guys over here, feed us,
Yeah.
and they do their best to get them across the Bosphorus and away. And here, these guys knock knock on the door of Belgrade. Can you let us in? I've got a few hundred people here to help out.
Yeah. Uh, so we have on one side, we're gonna have Mehmed II, Mehmed the Conqueror. On the defensive side, you have John Capistrano and his band of folks, who motley group who are en route. But then like in Belgrade itself, kind of taking charge. Kelly mentioned him, John Hunyadi. Um, and Kelly said, look, you think he's a great military leader.
Yeah, I think he is very. He's probably the best the West has, as and most experienced. So he's fought the Ottomans before and won. He's
Yeah.
won some battles in 44 that are really important. He knows he knows when to pick and choose and how to win against forces that are seemingly superior to his number. Um, and there's nobody else in the West that has that success.
And he recognizes very quickly, look with what we kind of have on hand at the moment. We're hoping more is going to show up, but what we have on hand at the moment, we have to depend on this fortification. And the line has got to be held here at Belgrade. He actually kits out thousands of men at his own expense. Um,
Yes.
he's like, look, I'll pay for it because if this goes down, everything goes down. And so he refortifies, resupplies, um, regarrisons in huge numbers because obviously they're not the kind of numbers that the Ottomans are bringing, but you're holding a fortification. You don't need equal numbers. You have a force multiplier in the fortification, and and kind of like we're gonna settle in here for the fight, and does a great job of this, of getting the supplies in, readying for what is coming, all the while hoping, right, that they're gonna get more help from the outside.
Yeah.
Um,
And he goes up and down the Danube constantly, trying to get numbers, trying to get supplies for the city. I mean, he knows that this is possibly going to be a very long siege, and that there's people inside that are going to have to eat. Um, and in fact, he describes Belgrade at one point as not a castle but a field. So he says we can't rely on the walls. We've got to be there, and we've got to face off the Ottomans, and we've got to do it. I mean, that's just all there is to it.
yeah, if we don't, this is it. Um, the Mehmed makes good time. It definitely should be said. I think he arrives within reach of Belgrade before anybody quite wants him to get there.
Yes.
So Hunyadi has the sort of the trouble of we didn't quite have as much time as we would have liked to get ready for this by the time that Mehmed is coming. I don't know that we know. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think we know that Mehmed is necessarily like speeding his march in response to what Hunyadi is doing. As far as I can tell, he's just methodically moving along.
Yeah.
They just don't expect him to get there quite that quickly. Um,
No. No, and
And
I don't know there. I mean, it's a race against time. Both. I don't think it's a secret that Mehmed is going after Belgrade. It's the
no,
nearest
it's not a secret.
large town. It's not a secret, and so it's just that the Hunyadi keeps moving back and forth.
Yeah.
John of Capistrano arrives just before the Ottomans do. But then the Ottomans arrive in full force, guns, um, camp. They set up, and one of the writers talks about their tents are numerous. So you look out over the walls of Belgrade, and there's this numerous sea of tents go all the way around the city in any place that they can. They've cut off got a big chain across the harbor of the city, but other than that, it's fairly there's a lot of room for men to go around if Mehmed fills it. Let's put it that way.
And Mehmed is not only filling on land, which is basically on kind of one side of the of Belgrade, because the rest of it's surrounded by water. But then he also has this, as Kelly mentioned earlier, this riverine fleet that is helping support his army along the Danube, and that actually advances up the Danube past Belgrade in order to cut off the river to prevent further supply from coming down the Danube to supply the city. Mehmed is aware that if he doesn't cut that off, like the city could basically be supplied, infinitely. That's no good. I need to cut it off. I'll cut off the river, and better cut off the city. Um, it This doesn't necessarily work the way that Mehmed would like, um, because
No, no, it
it's his
doesn't.
first
It's
stab.
his first stab, though. There's no Ottoman has ever been involved in riverine warfare yet, and he's the first. And then it'll come to a couple of three emperors later, or three emirs later. It'll be Suleiman that really brings riverine warfare into much more of a glory. But so this is Mehmed's first foray. He's built boats specially for it. He's known he's had to, because he knew that once the Black Sea had been conquered, he had the Belgrade to go into Europe. So it's not surprising him, but he does do a fairly good job. The Hungarian riverine fleet has just been sailing for a little
For
bit
a little bit
longer.
longer, and they, I mean, yeah, they have the experience of it, right? So this the initial event really of the Siege of Belgrade is actually a battle in the Danube, which is
In the
cool,
Danube, yeah.
which is very cool, and it's one that the Ottomans lose.
By my dating, it appears that coincides with the Ottomans opening their gunfire. So the bombardment of Belgrade starts on the June the 13th, and it's around the same time that they actually start that these two fleets sitting on the Danube that have been looking at each other for a few days now engage for the first time. So I think that must be a plan. We don't have the battle plan of Mehmed here in 1456, but that seems to me, just because it works out as far as the chronology is concerned, Mehmed must have planned the fleet action and the siege action go on
Which would make look,
simultaneously.
if the guns, sort of like the shock of that hitting Belgrade, and if he knocks out the Hungarian naval component, he's now completely cut off the city from the water. I mean, that's just that he's just trying to bring Belgrade, quit now, right? But it doesn't work. It doesn't work because Hunyadi actually wins this naval fight, um,
Yeah,
which,
he
like,
wins the
oh
naval
my
fight.
God,
Yeah.
like, isn't that great? Which enables him to bring the last sort of big group of folks that he was trying to get into Belgrade when Mehmed showed up. Now he can get everything in, get in the rest of his men and material, and be in a much stronger position to defend against, here comes all this cannon, right? That's hitting. as the Ottoman attack. So July 13th, July 14th, boom, that's all done. Uh, it's just too cool. It would be such a good movie. I don't think anybody's ever filmed that, tried to film that.
No, nobody's ever filmed it. Surprised the Serbs haven't, because it is a major part of their history. This failed siege, well,
Yeah.
the siege that will fail. I've let it out the bag yet,
But it
but
already failed a little bit, right? This naval thing has failed. And well done on the part of the defenders. As you said, Mehmed, he's kind of new to this. He hasn't had the experience of trying to do something like this. But it definitely is a kind of a rough blow that he's not able to completely cut off the river route of resupply to the city, which means now
yeah,
he's going to have to actually break the walls and storm the city,
yes.
which is tough.
I think that's the most important thing that comes out of it, is that if you cannot cut off resupplying of a city under siege, you can't use starvation to bring it to bear. Your army's
Right.
going to starve
Right.
faster than theirs are.
Yeah, and you could hope for disease, but yeah, you're sitting in place too, so you're probably just as susceptible to that. So yeah, this is
Oh yeah,
as
yeah.
Kelly just said, you've got to storm, you've got to break this thing. Um,
And on July 21st, he does start his first attack. So like you say, it's about the 19th he decides that the bombardment isn't working on its own. He's now got to go to actually using men in combat, which, if you're having to use men to charge a fortification, you're really on the losing side at that point.
if it doesn't work quick,
No. Of course, he'd been outside of Constantinople. He had to rely on men attacking fortification before. It just that, as you point out, it doesn't come quickly at this point.
yeah, and in Constantinople, he had managed to more or less cut off routes of supply to the city. He'd worked very hard to try and do that. Yeah, here he has nothing like that. He's just got to like get this done. And starts to his credit, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word. When he decides we got to go in hot, he goes in hot. Um,
He goes in
and
hot,
what is it's July 21st, we get the massive assault. That's Yeah, that's
led by
pretty
the Janissaries.
disastrous. What happens here?
So I mean, they try to. I'm sure that they've started to make a few breaches with cannons. So there's some, a lot of rubble they could use to maybe advance over the walls, and that's, I think, how they really hit it, is to take advantage of what they've done already, perhaps be a surprise those garrisoned inside, and maybe, although I think that he would think that was a miracle, he could break inside or convince somebody inside then to
Right.
surrender the lower city.
It doesn't go well. It doesn't go well.
No,
He get the Janissaries. The Janissaries, look, if you're not familiar, folks, like these are the elites. Like this is the first line, most advanced guys I've got, my best fighters. These are the dudes. And they managed to get in pretty deep into the city, but get cut off. Some of our descriptions talk about the defenders using flammable debris and things to like kind of cut them off and trap them. Um, I don't know. Do you think that's kind of like what really happens here?
yeah, I mean, there's one source that says that Hunyadi brings his cavalry down to bear on, but I can't imagine he's got many cavalry
Yeah.
in the city itself. The other source, and these are built up, of course, in the miracles of Saint John of Capistrano. So you can't ever
Yeah.
really accept them totally, because they are hagiography, and that appears that it's that
Hmm.
group that stops them. That they literally become fodder for them. They put themselves up around there, about 3,500, I think, of Hunyadi, or of Capistrano's people.
Uh-huh.
So maybe together it would be my guess, is that these are the people who are in Lower Town and they say, okay, we're going to stop this before they get into too much. And they beat them back out the gates and close them again.
And in the process of this, uh, do horrible damage to the Janissaries. Um, and once they get them
Oh, yeah.
trapped inside, it appears they trap a great many of them actually in the city. The Janissaries can't get out. Gates are shut, whether it's just kind of a simple like physical thing there, or if there actually is like these sort of walls of fire that have been sort of like set around them to trap them into place. They're stuck. And at that point they're just surrounded by everybody's in there and just gets swallowed up. It had to be a horrific massacre. Because they're not like, well, throw down your weapons and we'll call it a day. This is just
No,
brutal.
no.
We're killing everyone.
Yeah, and they are so interceded among them with this fight that there's no way uh, that the Janissaries could use any missile troops. And they had some handheld guns. We know they have maybe even some field cannon. They're bringing in the bigger ones. Are still on the outside, but there's no archery. There's no slings. There's no nothing that they would use in conjunction with the infantry. It's just simply everybody's in a mass, and some will make it out. Some of the Janissaries do. They get a door open, they start routing out, and they let them go. The ones inside let them go because they're too fatigued at this point to chase them.
Yeah, though everybody it doesn't make it out. That's it. Um, but speaking of this, like they don't chase them. This then sort of like sets the stage for the end fight of this whole thing, which is a really odd thing that happens. I mean, look, it works. I guess we'll say it works. By no means could it have been
Yeah.
planned. I can't imagine it could be planned. Um, but it appears that like the next day, even though they haven't sort of chased these guys out, they have this sense that like our enemies are in bad shape. They we've just mauled a bunch of them in here, and they had to kind of run away. Those who managed to escape, and as a result, we could go hit them while they're weak, and potentially get some of the booty that they have taken from us that might be out there. Um, and that sort of mentality, it seems, triggers an effort on the part of people to go out of the walls and attack the encampment of the Ottomans. Do you think is this spontaneous action by essentially the mob, if you will, or
Yeah.
or is this an actual leadership decision to do this?
Wait, this is one thing, and we always ask at the
Yeah,
end, what would you like to have? This is the one
sure,
I'll
sure.
jump ahead quite a bit on this and say, I'd like to actually have some notes from Hunyadi, but this is where more of the evidence is coming out of the saints' lives of John of Capistrano and some of the more banal chronicles. There are a few sources in the Ottoman side, and they don't know what is in the thought process of Hunyadi. If it is Hunyadi in control of everything, and he brings his troops together and says, "Okay, we fought, we've won, we've pushed them out of the city. Now, before they recoup, we hit them." But there's another part of it, and this is the one that comes out of the saints' lives, is that Hunyadi wants to just wait a bit. He wants to recruit himself. This has been a long, hard day. And Giovanni Capistrano goes, "Hey, dude, God is with us. Let's go, man." I always picture him as kind of a late
I was
60s
gonna
hippie.
say,
Maybe I'm
what
wrong
is it, the
on that.
dude? Is the dude here?
Yeah, it must have
Um,
been the dude. Hey, I'm eating my
Dude, let's
mushrooms,
go, man.
dude. Let's go.
Yeah, and this is yeah, I'd kind of be with you. Like, I would love to know what really happened here, because different sources tell this different ways. Clearly, some sources want to give Capistrano credit for kind of leading this. Other ones are like, well, it's his people that start doing this. He tells them like, get back in the walls, and then when that doesn't happen, he's like, well, like the die is cast. What are we going to do at this point? Let's just go for it. Um, I
There is a there's a great image though in one of the saints' lives that talks about him leading this motley crew of crusaders that he's brought in, and he's out there in his Franciscan robes and his Franciscan sandals, and he's got this beard that hangs down to his waist, and he's swinging the stick over the top, and you can't help but think about, oh, that's maybe where Gandalf comes out of
oh
in
my,
in Tolkien's mind, because Tolkien, a medievalist, would have known this. But it's a great image to suggest there is this mad septuagenarian who is sure God's on their side, so they're not going to fail, swinging his stick in his ratted old Franciscan brown robes, and he's heading out
that
and
is
everybody follows him.
fantastic. That is fantastic. Yeah, there's actually a mural um, that I think is done. At least the church is built during his life, and it has a mural of him kind of like leading this charge, and all it has is just he's holding a picture of Jesus. Um, and it's like, there you go. That's all you need. Here you go. Fo- Follow me.
Yeah,
It's
that would be on. The sources definitely say he's got a stick with him. He's
walking
70. He
stick.
probably carries a
He's gonna go out
cane.
there. He's gonna hit people with his walker. Um,
Yeah, he's old
yeah, he took
grandma
the
there with
tennis
a
balls
walker.
off the bottom of the walker, y'all. This is serious.
Yeah,
So
but because he also has John Hunyadi, and we know what a good general he is. I'm sure that either Hunyadi was behind it to a certain extent, either using this man and his living sainthood to be the to be the catalyst to get everybody out the door and go out and fight when they don't have the protection of the um of the walls. But so I still, this was the one where I don't want to buy this Hunyadi led enthusiasm like this the at Antioch in 1098 when they get let out by Peter Hermit and not Peter Thurman, it was Bartholomew, and leads out with this, I found, the
yeah,
spirit of
yeah,
Longinus sort of thing, that there is a little more wisdom behind this. And
it works.
I mean, a few of these Motley Crusaders dying, that's not going to hurt
Yeah, and it
Hunyadi much
and it
either.
works. I mean, look, however this starts, whether or
Yeah,
not it was
bottom
just
line.
some greedy people trying to run out there and grab some stuff, and then it kind of snowballs, or it was really planned. At this point, I don't know that we can really know. Um, but by gum, it works because they come launching out there.
It
They pretty
works.
quickly capture a lot of artillery, which that is huge, and are pressing the camp
Yeah.
so hard that Mehmed is actually advised to run, like get out of Dodge, get out of here, dude.
Yes.
Which he doesn't do. He doesn't do. He says, I'm gonna stay and fight. I don't run away. I'm Mehmed the Conqueror. Um,
They do drag him away eventually.
After he's wounded. Yeah, he
Yeah.
actually gets wounded. That's
Yeah.
how close this got. Is he is actually wounded in the fight, and they have to drag him away, and at that point, um, you kind of have I mean, this is it, right? That like it's over as he retreats,
Yeah.
um, and they do the you don't have a full rout of the Ottoman army. You have a kind of withdrawal, but the Christian counteroffensive here, whatever you want to call it, um, charge also sort of peters out too. And there's a kind of a recognition. Look, we you're not going to take Belgrade. Um, we also don't have enough to like just rout you all and eradicate you either. How about let's all bury our dead and you go away?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's when the pause is taken. Once Mehmed's off the field, the remnants of the Ottoman forces are there. They've run, but then the Capistrano and the others have got to go back in the city. They've got to get some rest, and leaving them in the tents wasn't going to be a wise decision. So they retreat finally from there, and the Ottomans can come and pick up the pieces, but they don't try to reestablish themselves. They take what cannons they can, spike them, they or drag them away if they can. They pick up the pieces of the tents and so forth. Mehmed's up the river now towards the Black Sea. He doesn't count. They've given up. They know is not a defeat. It's interesting. I've seen this on a couple of times studying the Ottomans, that they do know when they are defeated. They don't sit around
Yeah.
and say, "Well, maybe we'll come back."
Yeah. Well, I mean, he'd lost, again, depending on the number, 24,000, 30,000. Mehmed is
Yeah,
aware of the uh, absolutely extraordinary number of lives that have been lost. And on the one
yeah.
hand, people, people try to say, look, that he didn't care or what, but at the same time, he doesn't keep throwing more men at this.
No,
Uh,
no, no. And he never loses. Mehmed is much more aware of the cost of men's lives and how he has to replace them. Here's in at Belgrade, they lose 30,000, let's say 30,000, half of their force. Um, and he won't lose that same number or that same percentage at Rhodes, which is his last. So, and he didn't lose it at Constantinople either. So it's been pretty easy on him up to this defeat at Belgrade, and very much a defeat. He retreats and never goes back. It'll be up to his great grandson to return next week.
yeah, next week for us, not
Not
for them,
next
but
week
yeah,
for
yeah,
us.
Suleiman will be
Not
the
for
one
him.
to come back. Um, yeah, and it is, the Siege of Belgrade is obviously, I mean, it's not long. This is not a siege
It's
of
not long.
weeks and
No.
months and that sort of thing. I mean, this at most, using the biggest kind of numbers we got, it's like 3 weeks um, that the siege lasts.
A month and a half from so 13th of June is when they start, but when their army arrives, it's a month and a half before they leave. So 13th of June is when they start bombardment of the walls and hitting the fleet,
Well,
and
that's the
then they're
13th of
gone on the
July.
what?
That's
What did I
13th
say?
of July.
21st of July.
Yeah, 13th of
Yeah,
June. They haven't
21st of
even
July.
even showed up. I don't think. Um,
No, I think
yeah,
you're
yeah,
right. I said June, didn't I? I meant July.
yeah. They don't show up. They show up first forces. I think are like July 4th. So yeah, it's just a few.
Yeah, it turns very quickly.
A lot of guys die, and most of them in the last 48 hours ish of that time
Yeah,
period.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a brutal time.
Well, there's certainly no mercy given to them. I mean, not. I mean, this is seen as a crusade from Capistrano's position, probably from Hunyadi's position. There is no quarter given and no prisoners taken. We read of no prisoners taken at the end. They're either um, killed or they've run.
And good on Hunyadi, like well done. Unfortunately, he doesn't get to enjoy this because the plague breaks
No,
out and he gets it and dies. Um, yeah, he's dead like
yeah,
2 weeks after this great victory. Um,
yeah. It's ironic that the
yeah,
younger of the two leaders, John Capistrano, if we want to count him as the leader, he lives for almost
Yep.
10 more years.
He's living the life. I mean, this guy, this are a soldier
Yeah.
priest, soldier saint, gets all kinds of stuff attached to him. But yeah, Hunyadi, like well done, but he doesn't last long after this. Um, it is
No.
a sort of good indicator of of that threat of disease, right? Even though the siege wasn't that long, and even though they had won,
Yeah.
disease still set in because of all these men in close quarters and everything. And it ends up taking this great leader, kind of in his prime. And
Hmm.
yeah, that's pretty astonishing.
And I mean, his son will be okay, but yeah, Hunyadi had been able to hold Hungary away from the Turks for now 4 or 5 decades. And so he has been a masterful strategist in keeping Hungary away. And then in the time that he's needed in fighting, whether it was in 1444 or whether it's here in 1456, he's been a masterful tactician as well. And so even though his son is very good, he's not going to be he's not going to be his
Yeah.
father's
And he
caliber.
was only 50 years old when he dies here. So
Yeah.
had he not gotten sick, who knows kind of what the future holds for Hungary here. Um, so you're
As it was, that Mehmed doesn't attack again. So this is a pretty meaningful defeat for him.
yes, yeah,
And so, yeah. But whether Hunyadi could have taken and used that defeat, because the Hungarians also don't move further on it. They stay at Belgrade in 1456. They don't move further from the city.
yeah, and you start. I mean that we don't need to get into it, but I mean that's where you start getting into Vlad and all the sort of surrounding issues that are happening, and perhaps Hunyadi would have been able to better kind of handle all those situations. Who knows? It's counterfactual stuff is pretty hard to do. But
Counterfactual
at
stuff,
any rate,
yeah.
it does have this kind of monumental um, place here because right up to this moment, I mean, there are so many people who think like that's it, like despair. And Belgrade holds, and
Yeah.
while it's not quite at the level of Constantinople's falls, Belgrade holds is still a really, really big deal throughout Europe that this has happened, and of course, vice versa. We want to take
And
Belgrade.
I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure that the thought about Belgrade being there constantly keeps in mind for both the Ottomans and the Hungarians that
Yeah,
they've won or lost, because there isn't any fighting in that region for another several years. So Mehmed takes that and moves back to the city, and then he starts concentrating on the isles of the Eastern Mediterranean and not on the land gains in
yeah.
either Europe or Asia. So he changes his strategy, and that, if nothing else, brings peace to the region. Belgrade won't be hit again. There won't be another army anywhere near them again until 1521.
Yeah, as you said, the great grandson of Mehmed will be the one
Great
that
grandson.
comes back to finish
Yeah.
what was once started, and does finish it. We'll see about that, as you said, next week. Um, so you've already said like what it is that you would like that we don't have.
Yeah, I'm going to go greedy on this one because that's certainly one. I'd like to have a something more with what's happening officially on Hunyadi's side. You can't have a general like that, and then and even though say John of Capistrano takes so much of a role, it seems that Hunyadi is still in command back there. I'd like to have what he's planning,
Yeah,
and obviously it worked. So I'd like to know that too. I would further like to know just a little bit more about why at this point, and I know Hunyadi is dead, but why at this point the Hungarians seem to stay there. I mean, they don't advance. They could have advanced after that into more Balkan territory. Thessalonica had only fallen in 1430, so it's still quite young, the Balkan region they've taken, and yet Hungary just stands. That's it. That's the bastion. That's the end of the
Well,
line
it's kind of
for the
complicated by,
Hungarians.
by actually like what's going on in like Transylvania um and kind of, who's in charge and who's already sort of gone over to the Ottoman side, who hasn't. It does get to be a bit of a mess as you go down the Danube,
Yeah,
towards the Black Sea. Things are quite unsettled, shall we say, between people that
yeah,
are trying
yeah.
to
I think you're right.
go along with the Ottomans because they want to survive and they think that's how things are eventually going to go. Other people that are trying to hold out. So it's really it's a tumultuous time for that kind of whole region down the Danube. Um, and again, Vlad
Yeah,
Tepes is going to be right in the middle of all that. Um, but yeah, it'd be hard to kind of go into all that area, um, without it being truly like this is our own offensive campaign, and we're fighting against a lot of different enemies at that
yeah.
point. Um, so yeah,
And I always remember whenever I've been that part of the world,
yeah,
Balkans are big.
oh yeah,
It's a big area.
and some tough terrain. Obviously, the Danube cuts through it quite neatly, which is again why Belgrade becomes such a gateway. But outside that, it's tough to kind of maneuver operationally through this area. Um,
What would you
for
want?
for me, uh, as usual, I kind of want to know the sources we don't have, right? Like I want to know, Mehmed. I would love to know that was this a planned act of we're gonna try and knock out the naval components of the Hungarian forces simultaneous to the attack of the artillery. That would be wonderful to know, right? It'd be wonderful to know how how organized he was at that point, as far as thinking about a land river operation, which is what he's got, and why he had failed to cut off. We didn't kind of really talk about it too much. But there is an access north along the Danube that he doesn't cut off. So he doesn't. I mean, he's got most of the city circled by water, but like just across the river, he could have held that, taken that, held it, and really prevented a lot of more reinforcements from getting in there. And Mehmed didn't do that. And I'd love to know what he was thinking. Like, why didn't you do that? You had the men. Why did you not do that? Which enabled Hunyadi to take those positions across the river. And then once he knocks out the fleet, the Turkish fleet, he now has access to get everybody in that he needs. Well, that didn't need to be the case. Mehmed could have stopped that at the
No,
door by
no.
taking those land positions, and he didn't do that. I'd love to know why that was, but we probably won't ever know.
In my article, Conquering the Conqueror, which talks about this and talks about Hungarian roads, in both places, it seems to me that Mehmed, well, he's not at Rhodes, but he's at Belgrade. He's either a little cocky from Constantinople. I mean, that was the big city to take, or he doesn't. But whatever happens, he doesn't plan either of those
Yeah,
sieges the way he could have. And I think that you're absolutely right. He is not prepared. He's certainly not prepared for the attack, July 29th attack, to turn
yeah,
back on him like it did. If he's whether he's willing to fight or not, to be close enough to battle, that's not where an Ottoman general should be. Not a lot of Ottoman generals had
yeah.
fought in the front. Um, so I think that he doesn't plan this very well.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, I mean, if the explanation is just he was too cocky, I mean, okay, but also was it a failure of recon? Like there's lots of things that could be attributed to, and I'd love to know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Well, look, they're locking the doors on us,
Yeah.
and so yeah, please do join us next time. Okay, we're going to be doing the Siege of Belgrade in 1521, but also the episode after that is our next Q&A, and we already have some good questions, all right, which is awesome.
I just got another one
Awesome.
yesterday, I think, on what was the role with Jill DeRay and Joan of Arc's army.
Oh boy. Okay. Yeah. All right. All right. Look out, people.
Yeah.
Coming in hot.
Oh boy.
But look, so we have some. All right, but we could use more. So uh please send them to us. All right. As ever, a reminder. This podcast is sponsored by medievalists.net. So the best way to support us, other than buying our individual books, of course, is to join their Patreon at patreon.com/medievalists. That's also the absolute best place to drop us a line if you have questions for our next Q&A. Cheers, everybody.